Finley. It's great to see you again. Thanks for doing the interview today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think just a good place to start is from the beginning ish. So, when was the first time you started acting or got a hint that maybe you would like doing this stuff?
As a kid, I really loved music. I was involved in choir, starting in like third grade. I really early on knew that I wanted to do something where I could sing. And when I was in sixth grade, I did my first musical. It was Alice in Wonderland Jr.
Mm.
And I was one of the mean flowers that bullies Alice, which was very fun. It was a musical. And then I did the show the year after that, and I started doing theater at a youth theater program in my hometown. And then I just kept doing it from there. And I really fell in love with it over time, and I decided that was what I wanted to do professionally.
Yeah, so I know for me at least with performance in general and like fine arts, I kind of thought of doing it as a career closer to high school, more in high school. When was that moment for you?
I think I was in like maybe eighth grade, ninth grade when I was starting to think about that stuff. My school, I moved schools a lot, but my schools were starting to have those conversations with us of like, take this quiz, like, this is a career that might be good for you, like
Mm.
career readiness,
Yeah.
things like that. And so I started thinking about, okay, what do I like to do? And um, I don't know. I never imagined a future for myself that didn't involve the musical arts in some way.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, musical theater seemed like an avenue that I could do that with. And yeah, I kind of I can't say there was like one moment of clarity, but it definitely around that time is when it started developing for me.
Yeah, for sure. And you keep talking about musical theater. Were plays just kind of included in that for you, or did plays come later maybe?
Yeah, I did only musicals starting out just because that's what my school was doing in high
Oh.
school. But I didn't do my first straight play until my freshman year of college.
Oh,
And then
really?
I did, yeah, yeah, I
Oh.
did a couple other plays in college. So definitely a different vibe. But yeah, I'm really grateful for the experience that I've had doing straight plays.
Yeah. Other than like, learning the music and learning the choreography for dance numbers and things of that sort, was there much of a difference in how you approached a musical versus a play at that time?
Um, I think that I think that when you do a musical, in some ways, it's a lot easier as a performer because you're given multiple tools for telling the story. In addition
Yeah.
to the speaking, you're also given the singing and whatever motifs come in the music and the artistry that comes along with that. And dance, like all dance, acting, and singing all work together in tandem in musicals to tell a story. Whereas I think with straight plays, it's a little more bare bones, and you have to be very methodical in the way that you approach character. Not that that isn't true for musicals as well, but um, there definitely is, for me at least. I always felt like more of a spotlight scrutiny to my choices as an actor doing straight plays as opposed to musicals in that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing with music is it's very easy to get into a like a generic happy sad mood, major versus minor things of that. So I I think I'd have to agree with, it's a lot easier to tell a story because there's a lot more tools like you said for musicals. Um
Hmm.
with starting to do all this acting in college, when did you start looking to professional or semi-professional music or theater groups to start, furthering your career after college?
Yeah, I would say I think my sophomore year is when I started looking for summer stock opportunities because,
Yeah.
obviously when you're a college student, you can really only do stuff over the summer because you're in classes during the fall and winter and spring. So that's when I got started. And, my professors were a lot of help in that way, kind of helping me to start thinking about places I might want to do theater, places that could house me. There's a lot of components as a broke college student you have to consider
Yeah.
when you're looking to do theater. So that's, I think, when I started, and that's when I started. I can't remember if I submitted in the auditions my sophomore year. I certainly did my junior year. Um, but yeah, definitely sophomore, junior year is when I started thinking about, okay, I need to start getting some professional experience under my belt.
Yeah. And how did your professors help you with that, or how did people around you help you with preparing for that?
Yeah, I think that so much of what performing artists do is involved with networking. It's all about who you
Yeah.
know. Like, I had a lot of peers who they were going to go audition for this and they've worked with this person before or whatever, and they would recommend those places to me to submit to. Um, I have professors in college who are very knowledgeable about different summer stock theaters, different professional theaters in general. One of my professors in particular would promote like different places when he knew that they were accepting auditions, self tapes,
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that. And so that was always very helpful. And of course, the benefit of being in a college theater program is that you get to workshop your material for each other to prepare for auditions and things like that. So that was always really helpful.
Yeah. And now you talked about summer stock already, but now you are there and you're doing it. How is that going?
It's definitely a different vibe than college theater in a lot of ways. I it's very intense with summer stock in particular. This is the only professional job I've ever worked. I'm in my first contract right now. And it can be very overwhelming coming from a strictly college setting because the turnaround you have to get all of your materials learned and memorized and prepared and performance ready is so short, just because of the nature of um, summer. There's only so many weeks. And so I'm working on right now my third show of the summer. And I'm also learning two tracks at the moment because I'm double cast. So on
Oh,
the
okay.
weekend where I'm not playing a principal role, I'm playing an ensemble role. And on the weekend after, when I'm doing the principal role, I have to learn all of those materials as well. So it's a lot. It's definitely been. I've had to really hold myself accountable for learning my material on time and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I think coming from a college setting where the focus is on learning, and so you have several weeks to put up a show and really work on the different scenes and everything. When you come into a professional place, of course, you're still getting guidance and direction from whoever the director is, but you're there is more of an expectation that you already have those skills and that you already that you're coming in prepared to rehearsal every day, that sort of thing.
Yeah, because you and I both come from like school theater or community theater, whatever it may be, and it's very it can still get overwhelming for sure, but it's one show for 2 to 3 months where we're
Yeah,
rehearsing at least 3 times a week, and you've already done 3 shows in what 3 or 4 months of summer, so
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
At the place where I'm doing theater right now, I'm working at the Barn Theater in Augusta, Michigan. We have roughly 10 days to put up a show. Um, and so we'll be performing one show at night, and during the day, on that same day, we're rehearsing for the next thing. So it's you got a lot of tabs open in your brain, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
right. Do you even
Yeah.
do you rehearse the show you're doing that night on that day, or are you moving on by that point?
Um, the way it works, it's been working here in this summer is that we rehearse up until Thursday opening night. And then the next day, there have been auditions for the next show. So on that Friday. Um, and then once that starts, there's no more rehearsal for the show that you're working on or that you've just opened, unless there's an outstanding circumstance like somebody's sick, you need to put in rehearsal with a swing, like that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, that I mean, I'm sure for someone, especially someone that is really passionate about it and really wants to get into it, you find the fun in it though. I'm sure you've had a lot of fun doing, three different shows now and however many roles you've taken on.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely, for one thing, it's really bulked up my resume. I
Um,
now have three regional credits on my resume because I've done three productions at a regional theater, and
oh,
that's a really cool thing. The and of course, I mean, I love what I do, and it is really fun seeing it all come together, especially when you're with a group of people who collaborates very well together. I have been really lucky that the other people that I'm working with on all of these shows are fantastic, and I've really developed friendships that I think are going to last a long time in this place. Just constantly working together, constantly collaborating, and so that the community aspect of it, I think, has been my favorite part.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's everyone's favorite part of any show, just the new people you meet. So has acting been the only thing you've done with Summerstock with this regional theater, or have you taken part in like maybe the tech side of things or the stage crew side of things?
Yeah, so at the place where I'm working now, the Barn Theater, there are different work areas. So some people are assigned to work in the costume shop, some are assigned to work in the scene shop. My role is a little bit of a different kind of vibe. I have actually, we have bar shows here, and there's like a bar on the theater's property. And
Hmm.
so after the main stage, all of the apprentices, who the apprentices like me are hired for the summer, college students, we all come and perform in the bar show. And my job during the day is restocking like beverages and things like that. I bartend in the evenings between sets.
Hmm.
And so it's been really cool. I had expected to do more of a tech style thing when I came into the contract, but I've learned a completely new skill, which
Yeah,
has been really cool. So
yeah,
yeah, but
absolutely.
definitely, I think with summer stock in particular, like everyone's kind of doing everything, at least just from the experience that I've had with the contract I'm in currently.
Yeah, absolutely. So for people that are looking for opportunities like summer stock, or just preparing for maybe if it's even 5-ish years in the future, but people who are preparing, how did what are they expecting for an audition or a self tape?
Mm. I mean, I think it varies from place to place. I think some places, I think a lot of summer stock places, they have you fill out like an online application, like a Google form. I know that a lot of the places that I applied to, like they wanted to know all about like skills, like additional skills that you have besides like singing, dancing, acting. So, going back to your question about the tech side of things, like, do you have experience? Like, do you know how to use power tools? Do you know how to operate a sewing machine? Do you know how to um, do a simple hand stitch, like that kind of thing? Um, in addition to the audition tapes themselves, um, I I think a lot of places ask for two contrasting monologues and two contrasting songs, or maybe two songs and one monologue, or two monologues and one song. They're usually looking for when it comes to the song, it's usually up tempo versus a ballad. When it comes to a monologue, there are a lot of different ways you can contrast monologues, whether that's comedic and dramatic, um, contemporary and maybe an older show, or a classical literate a classical literary monologue like something from Shakespeare. Um, so it really depends, I think, on the place you're applying to, what they're doing that season. And as a part of that, I think it's really important that you do your research into the types of shows that they're doing that season. If there's a show that you think you would fit very well in, choose a song, choose a monologue that fits that show, that has a similar vibe to it, for lack of a better term. Um, yeah, I think self-taping can be one of the more challenging parts of the process. At least for me, I much prefer doing an in-person audition. Um, so the process can be, um, it can be tedious at times, like filming yourself and rewatching it. And I think it's a skill that you develop over time, and it's something that I'm still trying to improve on.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some tips you have for people on just how to do a self tape if they're not doing an in person audition? Because I know that's something that's probably a little scary for most people because they're used to
Yeah,
in person stuff.
for sure. So I mean, I think for on the technical side of things, making sure you have a blank background. Some people do it just in front of a blank wall, and that works fine. Some people have like a photo backdrop. I have one that pops up and it kind of reflects light. So, and I got it from Amazon for like $20.
Oh,
And that's been really helpful for me. I really recommend getting a ring light so that your face is well lit. And rather than having just, whatever overhead lights you have in your home, because that just makes it look a little more professional. And it also just, when you rewatch your videos, it you can when the quality of the video is higher, you're less distracted by the visual, and you're more
yeah.
um, tuned in on what actually needs work in your audition tape. Because I know that when I first started self taping, I would get too stressed out about, oh, like my hair looks weird in that one, or that, like, little things like that. And so having a ring light, a backdrop, things like that are just ways that you can A, feel more professional, and B, look more professional to the people that you're sending your self tapes to. And, there are very affordable ways to do that. It doesn't require anything super fancy. Like I said, like I got all my stuff from Amazon. It probably totaled out to like $35
Oh yeah, that's
to get my
reasonable.
equipment. Having like a tripod to set up your phone is always very helpful. As for the filming itself, um, I've given myself a rule that I can only film the video 3 to 5 times, um, because I've fallen into the trap of just, I would film it, I would watch it, I would hate it, I would start over, I would have a million videos, and I would just be
Yeah.
so overwhelmed, I wouldn't even want to do it anymore. That's a really fast way to get yourself burnt out. Um, and so I think that placing a limit on how many takes you can do, and then deciding what's the best out of all of these takes. Because then you're putting all of your effort into each of these videos, um, this limited count of videos that you've given yourself. Um, and you're less likely to be too nitpicky. Of course, when you're rewatching your videos that you've done, it's important to look for, okay, do I have a strong moment before? Am I reaching my objective as an actor, or am I pursuing my objective as this character? Rather than looking at, oh, like I don't like the expression that I made there. There's a level of nuance that you have to have. It's kind of a mind game in a
Yeah.
way. And so, yeah, I think that's my biggest tip, is putting a limit on how many videos you can record for yourself. Um, yeah. And then At the end of the day, I think just trusting in the skills that you have as a performer um, is the most important thing. I think the nature of self tapes, it's really easy to get in your head about what you're presenting, how you're coming off, especially since you're watching yourself. It's a very unnatural thing to do in many respects, in my opinion. And so just giving yourself grace and trusting that you have the skills that it takes and going from there.
Yeah, I gotcha. I will agree with listening back to yourself on a recording or watching a video of yourself is very weird. And before we close it off here, you said a few terms that I think some people may not know, like moment before and objective. Because I know for me, when I got to college, that was something I had never heard before. So for everyone else that hasn't heard that, what are those things, and what are some other things like that you may hear?
Yeah. So there are a few things, a few sorry. There are a few very important things that you have to remember as an actor when you're starting a scene, starting a monologue, a song, whatever it may be. And a lot of this draws on Stanislavski, um, which is the acting. He's sort of the person whose ideas I've been taught mostly through college. But your moment before, as a character, is going to be what happened immediately before you start the scene, start the monologue, start the song, whatever that may be. And it's really important to have an idea of what that is and to have a specific idea of what that is as an actor, because that's what contextualizes your whole performance. So, um, for example, in Wicked in Defying Gravity, right before Elphaba starts the song, her moment before is that she's being given the choice by Glinda. Do I drop everything that I believe in and ask for forgiveness and be accepted by everyone? Or do I remain true to my convictions and become the person I was always meant to be, even if that means I'm not popular, even if that means people hate me? That's the moment before in that scenario. And so when the actor playing Elphaba jumps into Defying Gravity, she has that on her mind. They have that on their mind. And it contextualizes the whole performance. It creates a jumping off point for you as an actor to start the journey of the song, the monologue, the scene, whatever that may be. Um, your objective as an actor, that is what your character wants more than anything and what they will stop at nothing to get. Um, and usually there's a super objective throughout the entire play musical, but smaller scenes and um, storylines within the context of a broader play or musical can have specific objectives. And as an actor, the best way to tell the story is to think of, at least in the Stanislavski tradition, is to think of what does my character want? How do I get it? And the how is called a tactic. And it gets really textbooky. But yeah, just thinking about what am I pursuing as a character? How am I going to get what I want as the character? Because a character that's not driven by something is not an interesting character. Um, and so the most interesting and compelling performances and the strongest performances come from actors who have a very strong idea of what their character wants, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for me it does, but I also had a
Yeah.
semester where I was studying it. Well, we're gonna close it off here. Thank you so much for doing this interview. It is great to see you again. First time since I think April, and it's great to
Yes.
hear you talk about this incredible journey. One last question before we end it here. You've talked about Summerstock and self tapes, and 10 days to put a show out, right, and 10 days to rehearse a show. And I think for people that aren't used to it, or aren't actively preparing for it but still want to do this, it can get overwhelming. And just the journey of how many self tapes do I record, will I be ready for this show in 10 days? What is a piece of advice or a few pieces of advice you would give to younger actors and actresses to maybe ease the journey or make it a little easier?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is that it's important for you to remember that not everybody's journey is going to look the same when it comes to this profession. It's really easy to fall into the comparison trap when we're in this field because the nature of it is so competitive, right?
Yeah.
There's always a bunch of people vying for the same role. Um, and I think it's important to remember that one bad audition or one no or any number of no's is not a reflection of who you are as a performer. It just means that isn't the opportunity for you. If that makes any sense. Like I remember in college, like I just graduated in May, and I this is the first professional thing that I've had. And I had peers who had gotten professional contracts like the summer after their sophomore year, the summer after their junior year. And so while I was still waiting to see if I got anything for this summer, it was really difficult sometimes to just question, like, okay, why am I not getting anything? To fall into that comparison trap. Um, but I think that everybody comes into their own in their own time. And for me, it was all about just having faith that the right doors were going to open for me at the right time, and they have. And every opportunity that I've been presented with has happened at the right time. Um, and yeah, I don't know. The arts is a really challenging field to be in. And so I think just remembering that your timeline might not look the same as somebody else's, that's okay. And that's to be expected. Um, Second piece of advice, um, really trust in your skill set as a performer. I mentioned this earlier, um, but again, it's really easy to start questioning yourself, especially when you're in high pressure, like turnaround situation, like places like Summerstock, where you have a very limited amount of time to get something across. I promise you that if you've done the work to get where you are now, which you have, you are going to be just fine. You're going to be able to learn the material. Everything will come together if you're putting in the work. You don't have to completely doubt yourself when things get stressful. Things might be stressful, but that doesn't mean they're impossible.
Yeah.
And you can do it. You can handle it. Um, you just, I like it's so like cheesy, but you just have to believe in yourself and that you can, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and Third piece of advice is to just take care of yourself. I think this summer has been a lot for me physically, mentally, emotionally, just because of the nature of summer stock and how much you're learning, especially if it's your first contract right out the gate, like it is for me. And that goes for that. I think that's true of all summer stock theater. So just care for your body, eat well, get some sleep, like make sure that you're really on top of that. Your body is your instrument as a performer.
Yeah.
And you have to maintain that well. I got really sick last week and
Oh,
I had to miss a bar show performance and going home and taking that sick day, like that was really necessary. And I was able to come back stronger than before. Um, Taking care of your mind and um, your heart and finding moments to just um, stillness, to just find some peace, doing things that fill your cup. Yeah, I think that's really important. You get really busy when you do this career, but you also have to remember that the best way to create good art is to fuel yourself as an artist.
yeah. I think that'll do it for today. Thanks for the interview. Thanks for all the advice for everyone else out there. It's great to hear how your journey is going, and I certainly hope it goes even better in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.